When Capcom announced Monster Hunter World during PlayStation's E3 conference this year, they set out to do the near impossible, make Monhun, the beloved Japanese RPG series, full of menus, stats, and hidden depths of strategy, approachable to beginners. But that's not just it, they also wanted to make World the first game in the series to be as popular in the West as it is in Japan. Series veterans feared this might lead to developers dumbing down the core gameplay, or drowning it in unskippable tutorials, or even worse, ridding the game entirely of its goofy Japanese charm and weird sense of humour. Last month I got the chance to get some real one-on-one time with the game, and play through a few hunt quests, and from my first impressions it seems like World is going to do exactly what it set out to do, revolutionise the series in exactly the right kind of way. While I've often loved the premise and style of Monster Hunter, putting in some decent hours into Monster Hunter Tri when it launched on Wii, the slow grinds at the beginning of each game for the first 10 hours or so put me off investing more time into other installations of the series. But with Monster Hunter World, the development team have worked hard on streamlining the opening sequences, lightly guiding rather than hand-holding players into the thick of it, with a cinematic opening leading straight into a hunting expedition in the ancient forest as soon as you've loaded up on your gear. The gameplay challenge is very much still there, but director Yuya Tokuda has promised that the difficulty curve that so many players found off-putting has been smoothed out and rebalanced, with the help of characters such as the Handler, who shouts handy tips at you as you're playing, similar to Navi in Ocarina of Time, but probably less annoying, although that will soon be confirmed after many more hours of gameplay with her, I'm sure. From the get-go, there's a strong sense that Capcom are really cultivating the continent only known as the New World, with more emphasis on the story which features voice acting and breathing life into the New World's habitat, from the deeper character customization tools for both your hunter and palico kitty friend to the cinematic-style cutscenes and game's living ecosystem. Monster Hunter World has a fully functioning food chain, featuring all tiers from natural growing fauna, which feed the gracious herbivores, to the upper tiers of the carnivores, which prey on other monsters. You can really utilise the environment and monsters which roam within it to your advantage, for example luring monsters to your target to help take it down for you, and then reap all the rewards for yourself once the coast is clear. I realised whilst playing it that it's also been quite some time since we've had the chance to see a Monster Hunter game on the big screen, with the last few titles having been exclusive to the Nintendo 3DS. But Capcom are certainly taking advantage of the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X's graphic capabilities, creating a beautiful and colourful environment which really pops out of the screen. With a bigger screen to play on, it also made me realise quite how imposing some of the bigger beasties like the Rafflos are. Throughout my playthrough, it did seem like the majority of Monster Hunter World's good looks were vastly thanks to its glorious dynamic lighting system and transitional day and night system, looking particularly sharp in HDR on the enhanced PS4 Pro I was playing on, although I'm sure it'll look equally stunning on a sound PC rig or the Xbox One X. The village of Astera acts as your operations base and is the home of the investigators of the New World. From here you take on quests, adventuring alone or with up to 3 other hunters in an online drop-in/drop-out multiplayer system, with the difficulty scaled depending on the number of players. This will also be the first time you can play cross-region cooperative between Japan and the West, creating one big global player base. At its core, World is much like any other Monster Hunter game, working on a hunt-to-craft system, where you defeat monsters and then collect their loot to craft new weapons and armour. Different loadouts work better against different monsters, so it's worth playing around with crafting and changing things up to gain the advantage in your next battle. A cool new feature in Monster Hunter World is the wishlist, where maybe you're crafting a new weapon and then you realise that darn it, you haven't got quite enough of the specific material to complete it. By adding that material to your wishlist, you can better keep track of when you found the material you need or what you're still missing as you adventure in the wild. Super handy. World also now allows you to fulfill fetch quests and bounties passively whilst working towards a bigger goal, or if you want to, you can just freely hunt without working towards a main objective at all, and without any limits in an area. You can now use these things called scout flies as guides to navigate new areas and track down monsters by locating their footprints and scent which lead towards their hiding spots. Sometimes this mechanic can almost feel too linear, with the potential to blindside you from wandering around and exploring your surroundings, but they do also have their advantages. Scout flies can be leveled up at the research lab, changing their skills. For example, a level 1 fly will take you from clue to clue, whereas a level 2 directs you straight to the monster without all the meandering, and a level 3 will show you the monster's location on the map straight away. But as enticing as the open world map can be, one simply can't just equip a great sword, track down a big boy monster and dive headfirst into battle. Whenever I attempted the fight first, think later approach, I usually ended up downing all my healing potions rather quickly and then retreating to safety before my opponent was even limping. As ever, Monster Hunter is a game which requires a basic understanding of each of the 14 weapon classes, each with their own unique playstyles and attributes in order to get ahead. From light weapons such as the dual blades to the heavier gun lance, and my personal favourite, the technical type Insect Glaive, which allows you to summon a Kinsect to attack monsters on your behalf, drain each other's essence, and then fly back to power you up, lazy hunter style. If your loadout really isn't working after multiple attempts to take down your main target, you always have the option to change out weapons and armour mid-hunt, by heading back to your base camp and changing up your strategy based on the weakness of the monster. World also introduces the Slinger, a new item similar to a grapple hook, which lets you swing off or pull on objects, dynamically traversing areas and utilising the environment around you. In Monster Hunter World, you can also look forward to some amazingly cute adventures alongside your Palico. Palicos are basically hunting companion felines who can heal you, use aggro to distract monsters in battle as a terrible and haunting form of self-sacrifice, and interact with other feline clans you encounter. They can also learn the languages of small monsters like Jagras and befriend them, so that sometimes during hunts your Palico can call upon their monster buddy friend for help. But that's not all. Your Palico is also a hero of adorable animations, such as when you approach water, your little Palico buddy will jump into a sweet rubber dinghy to safely cross with you. How cute. The training room is one of many ways World makes gameplay more accessible to newcomers of the series, allowing you to test out your weapons and moves with basic targets to shoot at in a nice safe environment away from any beasties. There's also other useful elements to play around and practice with, such as vines to swing on and blow up barrels to practice guard skills with. Arrows here are also infinite, so you can fire away to your heart's desire. So far, gameplay trailers and demos have revealed a bunch of new intriguing monsters to hunt down, and get ready for me to butcher these pronunciations, but they include ferocious elder dragons, including the flagship Nergigante, the Anjanath, a brute wyvern, and the great Jagras seen in the Ancient Forest gameplay, which can swallow other monsters whole and nearly double its size in doing so. Ugh. Players and monsters can also move seamlessly from one map area to the next without loading screens, and you can even mount monsters and travel along their bodies to deliver some serious locational damage to their weak points. Think a bit like Dragon's Dogma or Shadow of Colossus if you've ever played those. Monsters still don't reveal their maximum HP, but rather show their health by animation cues, such as retreating away in the final stages of a successful showdown. You can, however, see the damage a monster is taking through its on-screen hit points, so it's now easy to tell what attacks are doing the most damage and where the best place is to strike. But of course, if you'd prefer to go old school, you can switch these features off and rely purely on your hunter instincts. While I didn't get a chance to try out the new online system and take on hunts with 3 other internet buddies, from the footage I've seen I'm certainly excited to experience the new seamless drop-in/out style of gameplay to get some much needed help during quests and get stuck into the chaos of multiplayer. Even though I'm more of an offline single player type of hunter, I've always remembered my brief ventures into online play in Monster Hunter feeling slightly unfriendly and clunky, so hopefully these changes will go a long way in fixing that. Capcom has confirmed, however, that there will be features such as daily rewards, DLC expansions, and timed special events to entice players back again and again. But with a much more detailed and bigger gameplay environment comes a greater likelihood of bugs and glitches. I often found myself clipping textures, the left side of my body crashing through the environment, and my hunter casually acting like he hadn't just incurred grievous bodily harm to himself during my demo. Hopefully, however, this is something Capcom can smooth out prior to the worldwide simultaneous launch on the 26th of January, with a healthy Q&A period, so fingers crossed on that one. Based on what I've seen, while it's safe to say that World is much more accessible for series newcomers, and I feel like it will suck me into the depth of its gameplay much more than previous entries in the series did, the jury is still out on whether this will finally be the Monster Hunter game to replicate the success of its Japanese release in the West. One thing's for sure though, and that's whatever happens, there will always be plenty of cats. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, and if you're new here, consider subscribing for more Japanese gaming goodness. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. Bye!